welcome to another episode of Colorado Politicking. I'm your host, Pat Poblete, and like many others in Colorado across the world, and under the Gold Dome, in fact, my eyes have been on Ukraine and the Russian invasion over the course of this last week or so, and we're going to focus this week's episode kind of on the Colorado impact in terms of what legislators, lawmakers, public officials are really trying to do from their base here in Colorado when it comes to the invasion of Ukraine. So we're going to start off with State House reporter Hannah Metzger. Hannah, first of all, welcome to your first official politicking segment before we had you on for an introduction, but we're glad to have you on as a COPO reporter now. Now, one of the things you reported on was a resolution that made its way through the State House, kind of expressing support for Ukraine and condemning Russia. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Hey, well, both the State Senate and House unanimously passed this joint resolution. And it basically was just sending a message that they support Ukraine and condemn Russia's actions. It vows to help Ukraine in any way possible and to hold Russia accountable, but it doesn't actually take any direct action.
So what does that mean then, Hannah? Unpack that a little bit more. What can lawmakers do to help Ukraine in any way possible when it comes to those elected to the General Assembly in Colorado?
Well, as we heard from the legislators, a lot of them felt pretty powerless and that there wasn't a lot that they could do to address the conflict. We saw them endorse the sanctions that have been put in place by President Joe Biden, and some of them called for more action. Some senators requested that all Russian banks be fully excluded from the SWIFT system, and others endorsed the use of American troops to fight back against Russians in Ukraine. But for the most part, there's not a lot that they can do individually.
Well, you did touch on sanctions there, Hannah, and this is actually a good point to bring in Chief Legislative Reporter Marianne Goodland, because there are some Colorado-based sanctions that are in the works, and we got that news from Governor Jared Polis, right, Marianne?
That's correct. Last Friday, the governor issued an executive order regarding sanctions. Part of that has to do with requesting, or in using stronger language, to the state treasury, to the Public Employees Retirement Association, the state employee pension plan, and to the state's public colleges and universities to divest their holdings from Russian-owned assets. And in fact, we have seen it in at least two instances. Both PARA, the pension plan, and the University of Colorado have said, yes, we do have investments in Russia, and yes, we will get out of that. The Colorado Treasury was also part of that request and came back with that they don't have any Russian investments. So, but we're really talking about very small amounts of money here. In the case of CU, I think it's maybe less than $4 million out of a $2.6 billion endowment. And PARA's investments in Russia are also relatively small.
Well, Marianne, I'll kick the same question over to you that I asked to Hannah then. Is there any sense at this point that whether it be the governor or the state agencies that he runs, there's more to come on this front?
Probably not, because the governor does have limited authority to make changes in a foreign policy sort of venue. Colorado isn't the U.S. government, so it may wind up being something that's more of a collective action among Colorado and other like-minded states. As one state, we're pretty small potatoes.
Well, Marianne and Hannah, thank you so much for bringing us the Colorado angle, as you said, the small potatoes angle to this larger world conflict. We really appreciate it. For Marianne, for Hannah, I've been Pat. Thank you so much for joining us this week, and we'll see you again next week.